Hello, hello. This is Robin with Shanique Boutique Wigs by Robin, and I am now the host of Fuzzy Fables live show podcast. So this is our very first live show, um, and I have an exciting guest today. So this will be a bi-weekly show on Thursdays, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. You are most definitely allowed to leave your comments. I'm even doing this on Facebook, on just my personal page, just to make sure, in case, because you know how I am with technology, something goes wrong at YouTube, at least I'll have Facebook. So we're going to do it this first time on both places, but it is live, and you're more than welcome to ask questions. We'll answer them the best that we can. And I will, because our guest has a ball game for her granddaughter that she needs to go to. So we're going to get to her first. And then when she's finished, I will explain kind of a little bit more about the podcast and what is going to be coming up and a little bit of bio about myself. So this is Miss Kim Kilpatrick. And she was, I guess, born and raised in Alabama, correct? So we live in a smaller area in Alabama, and we grew up. It was a very rural area, but we have a large population of addiction. Um, I think most everywhere does,
Yeah.
but ours was a little misproportioned for a time, disproportionate. So Miss Kim and I, of course, went to school together, but we connected later when I was working as a nurse practitioner in a clinic, and I was helping her with some of her girls that live in the House of Hope. So she is a hero to our community, and I just want her to explain a little bit about what she does at the House of Hope. And again, feel free to ask any questions. Go ahead, Kim.
Uh,
Oh, the camera's out there.
okay. First podcast.
Yeah, it's
Um,
both of our first podcasts. So.
House of Hope is long-term substance abuse treatment for women. They would have to be detoxed if they're using anything withdrawal that requires detox. Um,
So if they're on heroin, opiates, they get
alcohol,
alcohol.
benzos.
Yes, they have to be detoxed.
And now Suboxone.
And where do they get that through a treatment center?
We have a few. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in a word for self recovery. We have one in Center that has always been really good because a lot of these women don't have insurance.
Yes.
So they have like a sponsor program to be able to get them in to get them detox.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say they have to be clean, but they don't need to be having withdrawals.
In withdrawal.
Yes.
Yes.
They have to be able to work a full-time job here. Go ahead and say ditto to Cook's Foods in Collinsville. They hire all our women. And just take into consideration that the biggest part of our women are felons.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my women are second, third generation drug addicts. They don't have a high school diploma.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I've had doctors' daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I've had an attorney here.
Yep.
Like, it don't discriminate, but they all work at the chicken plant. Our goal here, though, is to give them the living skills and recovery tools to carry outside of here. I don't want to see them to succeed here. I want to see them carry it outside of here and succeed.
Yes. And a lot of these women have children that they are separated from for obvious reasons. And so you help to build that relationship with the family as well.
As soon as they get, it don't matter if they come in on Friday afternoon. If it's doable, depending on where the children are and who has them and how many bridges they've burned, the children can visit every Sunday for 2 hours with the moms at the house.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. And do you have like a recovery rate approximate?
No, April the 2nd was 18 years that I've been open.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of varies sometimes, but I would say the ones that do 6 months here, the most average that is about 30%.
Okay. Because we all know, of course, that addiction is something that is very, there's a lot of relapse. That's part of the recovery, is relapsing. But 30% is actually very good.
Yes.
Very good.
And well, they have the option to stay longer.
Hmm.
We call it 3/4. After 6 months, like they can't have a cell phone here. We have a landline. They get to use the phone every day because I want them to maintain that contact with their children and their family members. And after 6 months, if they choose to stay, it's more transitional.
Okay.
They can have the cell phone if they're legal, which we really work hard on getting driver's license reinstated with fines, and they can get a car. They do have to maintain their job they have. They can go home every weekend instead of every other weekend. They just have to be accountable. As a matter of fact, now I make them log into Life 360.
Okay.
Since they have a cell
Nice.
phone,
Yeah.
that keeps them more accountable too.
Mhm.
And I put them to work. If
Yeah.
they stay longer than 6 months, they will stay and work weekends because the house has 24-hour supervision.
Sure. Sure.
So the ones that choose to stay, I ask for a 3-month commitment to stay.
Mhm.
After that, it's just play it by ear. We go week to week. I don't even cap it. I have a girl that stayed 3 years that left at Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had another one that left a few months ago that had been here 2 years.
I would imagine that makes them feel safe and
It is. It's
comfortable, and
home.
they're afraid to leave.
It's home. It's home.
Because what I see a lot of time, what I've seen in a lot of areas with addiction is we treat them and then we send them back to the same atmosphere that they became addicted to in the first place. And so you're their safety net at that point.
Yes. Yes.
But I can tell you, she's no nonsense. If you screw up, you're out.
Depends on how big the screw up.
Yes.
I don't have a problem sending them on the way with black and white issues. The
Mhm.
gray areas are a little harder
Yeah.
to determine the punishment.
Hmm. So what brought you to do that work? I know you're an open book.
Yes.
So
I'm a recovering meth addict.
Mhm.
When I got clean in 01, at 2 years clean, I went to work for one of our local treatment centers. Now it's more about insurance money,
Mhm.
but still, it gave me access to people being in short-term inpatient treatment.
Right.
And being in recovery myself, I would have women talking about the way they were treated in treatment. I would inpatient treatment was not long enough. You're talking 14 to 21 days, depending on how long the insurance would pay. And that's when I started wanting to open a place for women that was about recovery.
Yes.
About building them up, giving them the tools they need to succeed.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's not always just about the legal stuff and getting fines paid and getting license reinstated. Like, one big issue is teeth.
Yes.
We do a lot of damage with our teeth.
Mhm.
And now our local dentist that was so great to us, that did the most beautiful dentures, passed away this past year.
Mhm.
So we're kind of in limbo on the dental thing. But there was one year, a few years ago, we got 12 sets of dentures in 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Can I come live at your house for like a month?
But they have good insurance. Like,
Right.
they work at the
From the
chicken plant,
chicken
but
plant.
they have good insurance.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
but it's not just about the legal stuff, but it's about the self-esteem and the self-worth. And
Mhm.
I want them to have that beautiful smile. We were talking about, my favorite thing is the laughter.
Yes.
And anybody that knows anybody that's been in active addiction knows it's about survival.
Yes.
There's no laughter involved.
Mhm.
And to hear those women laugh is still my most favorite thing there. And to be able to see them smile with that beautiful smile, like, and laugh, like,
That is fantastic.
yes.
And I know that there's times, I don't know all of the personal financial things that you have to go through, but I do know, just watching from a distance, that you're not getting rich off of this.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Miss Kim devotes her life to this. She has given up her life to help treat these women and help them through recovery. And I agree. Self-esteem is huge. I went over there last night and I did a little wig show. And it was mainly to practice because I got some coming up. I have laughed and laughed, and I was so happy when I left there because I got to watch these women try on different hair and they were laughing and making fun of each other and they seemed so happy. And I've seen that other side. I've seen them come into my office where they were begging for help to get off heroin, not necessarily these same women, but in general, a patient. And I would have them on my couch every day detoxing them because we don't have enough detox facilities to be able to do these things. Um, and a lot of times they didn't have insurance. So even the ones that did couldn't do it. Where do these people go? I mean, you think about it, most people that aren't in addiction or they don't have someone close to them that has addiction issues, you don't necessarily think about all of these things. When they let them out of jail, say drug charges, whatever, when they let them out of jail, typically they don't have a driver's license. They have all these fines they have to pay before they can get them back. They have no ID sometimes, like Social Security
Not
cards.
sometimes,
Normally, no Social Security cards. Like drug addict, when they're in full addiction, they're not keeping up with those things. They're surviving. So we just turn them loose, and then they either have nowhere to go or back to the same place that made them an addict to start with. So that is where Kim comes in. Can you say, like, how do the girls get along in the house?
Well, you got to see last night. Right now I have an amazing group. The unity is great. Like, it's not always like that, but I'm just gonna say God has a way of weeding out the negative.
Yeah.
Always, like, and if they don't want to be there, like, I'm not gonna hold them hostage.
Right.
Like,
now, are they some are court ordered to be there?
Majority are court ordered.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if they leave before their time is up,
I notify all the court people, and there's usually a warrant issued for their arrest. Okay. And they don't go far.
Yeah.
They don't go far. But I will say, like, when I notify the court people, I'm not out to skin these women up. I can't. They can do a good enough job of that by themselves.
Oh yeah. Well, you're doing it. There's also a safety
issue
there.
But
you're
I'm
protecting
obligated,
them.
Yes, but you know what? I had rather see them in jail than
exactly. And two, if you didn't turn me in, they wouldn't send you anymore, and then they couldn't help.
But I'd rather see them on the jail and the mugshots than in the obituaries.
And we work with. Sorry, she works with a wonderful judge here in Marshall County that really, really wants to see them recover.
I love all our judges.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't say I know all of them, but I've worked with one particularly that is awesome.
They are really amazing supporting recovery, and
that is wonderful.
And which I think is great because they deal with so many bigger issues, to not be so cynical and to see that the women need help. Like, recovery has come so far over my years in recovery.
Some of the options too. I know, unless something's changed, you're more of just abstaining from everything.
Yes.
So we have lots of treatments in recovery. And I just want to give you just a short little tiny background. I am a board certified nurse practitioner, and I have treated addiction and mental health and issues for quite a few years. So I do understand these issues, but there's different treatments. I know that you've heard of methadone. I know you've heard of Suboxone. I know that you may not have heard of Vivitrol, but it's there. There's lots of different treatments. So Kim's preference is complete abstinence from any type of controlled
narcotic.
Correct.
Like, now I do believe some of these women do need the psych meds.
Yes.
But I believe there are non-narcotic alternatives that will.
So
my personal treatment center does not support the medication assisted treatment. We don't do that here. But everybody that works with me and for me are all in recovery. I don't want to expose them because we administer meds. I'm not going to expose them and risk their recovery to administer meds.
Correct. But again, psych meds can be very important
Yes.
because a lot of reasons people turn to addiction is
Mental health
psychiatric issues,
yes.
which can definitely be
It's
the
kind of a
root
double-edged
cause.
sword with the mental health and substance abuse, and that substance abuse creating the mental health issues too. So
Yeah. So, psychiatric meds, of course, blood pressure meds and things like that. You take them to a physician. Um, she has to even put them to work. She has to take them to a provider, get them cleared, and then they will in turn, keep up with their blood pressure medicines, and basically they have everything they need.
but all their needs are
And
met.
you purchased the house.
We are purchasing the
Okay.
house.
Sorry.
Yes.
So how long have you been in that house?
We've been in this house. December was 16 years.
Okay. They have a very nice 2-story home. It's on a lot of acres. Seems like a lot of
3.2 acres.
3.2 acres. And then there's some mobile homes to the side. I guess
The
that's
one mobile home.
okay.
That's part of the transitional after the 6 months. And then I've had so many that want to stay. We have just got the camper connected and set up for
Okay.
2 of my newest graduates.
Okay.
So, and they were excited about the
Yeah.
camper. I was a little like, I didn't know
Yeah.
how, but they were excited.
Oh, hey, girl, I live in a camper. We're good. We're good.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, it's amazing. How many do you normally have at one time?
Well, right now, the house holds 12 beds
Mhm.
for like 12 clients. The trailer will hold 6 beds. And then now I've got 2 in the camper. But right now, I've got 4 on couches plus all the beds.
Wow. Still,
Yes.
they seem very happy with
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Did they take turns like cooking and cleaning?
No, I've got a house manager that has some also spoiled. She has supper ready for them.
Oh, wow. That's good though. If they're working a full-time job.
She enjoys it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but yeah, she has them a little spoiled. But that's her love language, is
Mhm.
cooking, and she's a good cook, and they're all happy, so I just stay out of it.
So what about oh, hey Alex, hey Gypsy, hello everybody. So I know in the past you kept them very busy, like they would go to AA meetings or NA meetings and different
Currently, we don't have
counseling.
any NA locally right now.
Okay.
We do so we do AA. We just got a women's AA meeting started recently that they attend, and we do a couple of CRs. But I am taking them to Florida next weekend to a huge NA convention.
That is awesome.
So we'll get some.
I know they're
time,
so excited.
They're like kids. They are like kids. But like I said, everybody pitches in for us to be able to go to this trip.
Mhm.
And so
Like they pitch in with their own.
they work.
income.
So they
Yeah.
like
Okay.
I divide it up, like whatever the house costs with the people,
Mhm.
and we all split the cost. So
you're giving
when you're taking like 20 women, like
will they all fit in your van?
they're gonna fit in.
Okay.
It's no transit bus.
Transit bus. Now, how many have you been through?
Vehicle issues is always our biggest
Always,
thing. So,
huh?
yes.
So anybody
So
out
anybody
there
that wants to donate the vehicle
Yes.
for a tax write-off, we are
Yes,
501c3.
Yes, because again, you don't take you didn't take funding from the government at one point, correct?
No, now
Because it's too regulated.
So, yes. Now the house meets all the state codes to
Mhm.
be, but Alabama, well, we're 10 years in with it's called Ross.
Yes.
So because I am peer certified,
Mhm.
we do get some funding that helps pay for the women's first month here.
Okay. Just
But
to kind of get them
that's
started
just
until
been
they
within
start
the
getting
last
a
couple of
paycheck.
years to not let them get so far behind.
Okay.
Of course, I hate the whole business side.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got to keep the power
That's
on.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to keep
Yeah.
the power on. Of course, we have the vehicle issues. But
Mhm. Yeah.
insurance is a big blow every year with the house insurance and the vehicle insurance.
Mhm.
Just life stuff. Just,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
flat tires, brakes need big,
Mhm.
like,
Because typically when people donate things, they're not necessarily new things. It's still
no,
greatly appreciated,
no,
but there's going to be breakdowns and things that you
yes.
need help with. Yeah.
And like the biggest thing, like we get lots and lots and lots of clothes donation, and they are so greatly appreciated. And I just want to say for 9 years doing this, because I opened in '07,
Hmm.
nobody would look our way.
Yeah.
Nobody would support us. Nobody would touch us. And I will say, 9 years in, the Boaz Chamber recognized it. We had always been a chamber member, but they recognized us, and we got a donation from their chamber banquet that year. And it's kind of like that just opened the
Snowball.
door
Hmm.
for which society changed. Society changed. Like most people have somebody in their family now that struggles with drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
They can't just turn a
They
blind
can't
eye
turn
to
their
it
head
anymore.
anymore. Yeah.
Not to get over into the religious side of it, but when the Celebrate Recoveries come into the churches didn't know what to do with us 20 years ago.
Hmm.
That kind of opened the churches up to be more open and recognizing. So, so society in general, Ross coming around opened
Hmm.
up more doors. So,
So they still have a lot of activities at Ross.
yes,
Yeah.
we just did a recovery walk a couple of weeks ago. So,
Okay.
and they actually made the local paper. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, doing some amazing, amazing work. And I wish that all communities had a Kim. But it is a very selfless thing that she does and that she has created for these women and uplifting them and creating an environment that's safe for them. Um, are there any men places that are the
Oh,
least
yes.
bit
There's always
similar?
been 10 to 1 men's places over
Okay,
women's.
so there's always
Yes.
been a lot of men's
Yes.
shelters.
Yes.
Do they? Okay, all right. And they
You
make
just,
them work. I know that they make
I
them
would just
work.
advise
And
anybody with a male family member, talk to some other people that work in the recovery field before you just take recommendations from people in the community, because I don't agree with.
there's a lot of MAT in there, isn't there?
Well, and it's not so much that. I'm not going to get into details, but they just do things that I couldn't go
Yeah.
to sleep with at night.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you should always, no matter whether it's a men's shelter, women's shelter, whatever, you need to check it out.
Yes.
That's where your loved one's going. You need to check it out. Um, this
I
is
will say that when people call me about it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knew when I was in active addiction. Everybody, of course, knows what I do now. I have people call me. Where can I get my son? Where can I get my husband?
yeah,
And I give them references, but I will be like, if it was my loved one, this is where I want them.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And that's because that's the type of person that you are. You
but
know,
if they're just desperate to get them somewhere, I'll give them all the
whatever.
numbers I've got and be
Right.
like, well, at least they're not dead.
Yeah, that's true. Because we have in the past outrageous numbers of deaths from opiate fentanyl overdoses,
Yes.
which is across the country, of course. But for such a small town we live in, it
Well,
was
many years
everyone
ago,
has been
we
affected.
made the show intervention known as Meth Mountain.
Yes, and we were in People magazine as Meth Mountain. Yeah, there was a doctor that attempted to help, and we made People magazine on that. Speaking of donations, I have a wig customer. Her name is Pam Cox. And when she found out that I was coming to your home last night, she donated these handmade, they are adorable, like headbands, and they're wired.
Well, and if you notice, that's not the women wear
Yes,
headbands
I saw that.
and bandanas and
So
stuff for their job.
because I didn't do anything live last night because
Yes.
I wasn't sure, how they felt about that, I wanted to donate these today. And
Oh.
so there's even some, I mean, these are so adorable.
And they'll mean even more because they got to meet you now.
Yeah.
So
But they came from
I
one
will
of my
let them know.
customers.
I will let
Her
them
name's
know.
Pam. Thank you, Pam.
Yes, thank you, Pam.
So make sure that
I will make sure they
she
get them.
donated all of those.
I will. Thank you, Pam.
So anything else that you want to add to, like maybe any type of obstacles that these women really have to go through, like the jails, they make them do certain things. Is it hard to get them to those things? The drug testing, those kind of
I do
stuff.
all the drug testing. I use the
You do.
lab, so
Okay,
makes it so much easier. When they get released from jail and come here, they're ours.
gotcha.
They're here.
Okay,
Now we do get them to court date and stuff that they have to go to because, like I said, we're trying to get all the legalities handled
hmm
and get them in good standing, get fines paid.
hmm okay,
But of course, I mean, the biggest obstacle, you've always seen the shows, always money.
money.
Always money.
Yeah,
And these women get out of jail, and there's a few that are fortunate enough to have families that will still support them. More often than not, though, they burn their bridge.
they have, and it's not necessarily, you can't blame the families.
No, absolutely
I mean,
not.
we've
done the damage.
exactly. Once you just continued and continued to burn that bridge, that family is going to just step
They
aside.
are not in the wrong,
Right.
But so the women get out, and they have no support.
hmm
So I can't get them a job without getting an ID
hmm
and a birth certificate. And then, like I said, you have to go to the doctor visit. So they come straight out of jail with the clothes on their back, and we pretty much are investing $100 in getting them ready to go to work before we ever get a penny from them. I don't require money to come in here because, and I've always struggled with this because we always have struggled financially. But how do you put a price on a human life?
Exactly.
How do you we have a $500 interest fee. How do you say your life is worth $500? So if you can't pay it, you can't come here.
hmm
God's provided. We don't skip meals. We don't get the power cut off. And I'm going to tell you, more times than not, over the last 18 years, there's not been a logical black and white explanation. Like if you put what comes in this month to what had to go out this month, it don't. I mean, but I'm not an accountant,
but I truly believe when you're putting that out there, when you're doing the right thing will come.
Yes. And don't think I hadn't begged for years at times to please let me do something else. Please just let me have a 9-to-5 job and there's been times where I didn't know how we were going to make it, and I'd be like, okay, maybe this is my sign. Maybe I've paid my dues to society. Maybe I can be done. And then it comes through, and I'm like, well, it's not time.
But one thing I do know is you love the beach.
Yes.
Are you going to retire there at some point in time?
Well, I'll have to get a huge financial blessing. And of course, I tend a lot to my parents too. So as long as I have my parents, no, I won't go anywhere. But I would have to just have a huge financial blessing to ever be able to do that. But,
well, I believe that you'll get there. I do.
Or at least be able to go whenever that's where I go to get a little sanity, get some vitamin D. And the vitamin D helps my mental health, and
that's awesome. And you've been recovered since 2001.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So I am so proud to have you here this evening. I know that you're ready to go to your granddaughter's ball game.
Actually, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to Asbury.
All right. That's not too far.
No, it's not.
But again, she's a hero in my eyes and to everybody in this community. And the things that she does is absolutely amazing. And I wish there were a lot more of you in this universe. I think that if we had more people that cared more about the person instead of the money, we could make a difference. I know that sometimes it bites you, and I'm sure you've been bit many times, but you keep going. And that is just the biggest sign of strength ever. And I think in today's society, just another thing I wanted to touch on is women are so very quick to tear each other down. And I think it's so important to build each other up because you do not know what someone's going through.
We actually had a little conversation at supper before you got there last night.
Okay.
And I don't like the women like meaning talking to each other on their backs. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
if you've got an issue with somebody, don't talk about them, talk to them.
Yes.
And because our communication skills are so lacking, if you don't feel like you can discuss it with them in a loving, caring way, then come get Stacia, my house manager,
Mm-hmm.
and we will sit down. But y'all are not like going to be talking about each other behind each other's back.
Yeah. See, that is an area that I am struggling with at the moment. You've known me for a long time. You know that I just say what I need to say, even though sometimes it doesn't need to be said. But you never have to wonder what I'm thinking.
Exactly.
I'm
I
not
like people where you always know where you stand with them.
exactly. But this new community that I've engaged myself with, this wig world, doesn't quite understand that. I'm not sure if there's a generational gap, maybe.
You know what though? I tell these women, and I think this applies and not just in recovering addicts. I tell them for every 5 people wanting to see them succeed, they got 10 plus out here waiting to watch them, waiting to see them fail.
Why is it that people want to see people fail?
Well, people hide behind keyboards.
Exactly.
And I think most people are we're such a labeling comparison society that we're so envious of what other people have that and so insecure that it'll make me feel better about you to see you not.
True. It's not about competition at that point.
No.
Because you can have
it's all
healthy
about
competition.
People's own personal insecurity.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I do find that the people that are creating that chaos or talking behind your back, they're very insecure people.
Very.
And, but unfortunately, it makes the ones that are like, boom, makes us seem very mean.
You know what I wish we could do with the people as kindergartners? When, like, you got the bullies and the people that say mean stuff. This is what I've done with women before. If they get to backbiting too much, I will make them compliment each other every time they pass each other.
That's harder to do when it's on the keyboard.
Yes, it is. But rather than say something bad about them, compliment them.
Yeah.
I tell you another thing that's even harder though is to make each of them say something good about themselves.
True. I can see that.
Yeah,
it's
really hard for them to find something good to say about themselves.
You know, in those interviews when they're like, "Tell me something good about you," I'm sitting here like, "Oh, holy crap!" Like, I'll sound like I'm bragging, or, I've learned over the years, if you accomplish something, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay to give yourself a pat on the back.
Exactly.
Too. It is okay to give yourself a pat on the back.
And so when you've recovered, it's perfectly okay. When you are in recovery, you pat yourself on the back. When you get your new teeth, you show them off.
Yeah.
Everything. And like, I know I have said before in different lives and stuff that putting on a wig helped to save my life. And I meant that. And I know it's a wig. To most people, that would be very silly. But I was in a point in my life where I was very much lost, and probably the worst point ever. And I've struggled with depression since I was a teenager, but that was the lowest of the low. I didn't care if I lived anymore. For some reason, I put this silly wig on, and all of a sudden I wanted to start putting makeup on. And then I wanted to start making others feel better.
You could change the outside and become who you wanted to be.
Yeah. And I've never been a superficial person. Like, I went 20 years without wearing makeup. Like, my hair was on a ponytail 90% of the time. But it's like, I'm in a different stage of my life now. So I quit worrying about all those material things and started focusing more on myself. But then you've got other women that don't like that. And I've had to learn that those are just the women that I have to block and go on. Because I can't control their behavior. I can only control mine. And mine Mine is like getting them back.
Yes.
Not getting them back, but like confronting them. Because I've always been about putting it out there. I can remember in high school when I would have this person coming up to me and they'd be like, "Hey, this person said this about you." And over here, this one person, I would get them together face to face. That is how I handled things. Like I hated that backstabbing drama. And so that has carried through my lifetime. No one could ever say, "Well, I'm going to tell what you said," because I've already told them myself. And you're very much like that as well.
I practice not saying anything about you that I haven't or will not say to your face.
Exactly. And that way, nobody has anything to hold against you. So if they are saying those things, likely they're not telling the truth.
And plus, if you stand for something, you're going to have hope.
Oh, yes.
And
yes,
people are intimidated by strong women.
Yes, very much so. I never even thought of myself as being a strong woman. You know, I grew up kind of alone. My mom had to work a lot of jobs to support us. And I just kind of was, I was that Gen X, what do they call them? Lock key kid or whatever. We just did our own thing. And I don't know. I never really thought about being strong until I had to but I was always fighting. I was fighting as a child. I was fighting for others. I was breaking up fights at home. I was always kind of that person that spoke up and said no.
But you also raised boys and went back to college, and you fought health issues, mental health issues,
domestic abuse.
There you go.
Drugs.
Strong woman.
I was never, and I've discussed this with Kim. I have made claims years ago that I had a drug addiction. When I met Kim, I realized that I did not have a drug addiction. I was a participant.
Yes.
So I abused them because the people around me did, because I got pleasure out of it at the time, or I got something out of it. But when I stopped it, I never looked back.
Yeah.
So that's not addiction. That's just being a participant. So thank God I didn't. Now, I can say I'm addicted to sugar. That is positively true. But I still had that. I've been surrounded by addiction my whole life, and I've been surrounded by abuse, and I've lost many loved ones to addiction. So, and I still have family that I worry about, but it's like, I wanted to make it my goal to help those people. Of course, I didn't have nowhere near the capacity that you have, but those were my favorite patients. Those are my favorite people still to this day, because they stood up for me when it got rough, when everybody else turned their back. They were messaging me and, "We love you, Miss Robin, and thank you." And they are just so genuine. And I see that pain. And then when they get recovered, I see that laugh again. Back to the laugh. That is worth everything.
And the ones that have been on the bottom know, like, they've been in the bottom. All right. I'm going to head to my grandkids.
Thank you so much. Hang on,
Thank
folks.
you.
I'm going to discuss a couple more things. But thank you. I love you, Kim.
Call me soon. I love you.
Love you.
Thank you, Miss Hawk.
Yeah.
The women will love it.
And listen,
I will get some pictures.
Any of those pictures that they took last night with the wigs, send them, and I'll put them on the website.
I will get them to you.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy your ball game. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much. I just wanted to do a little bit of a bio to kind of tell you who I am. So my name is Robin Scott, and I'm the owner of Shanique Boutique Wigs by Robin. I was born and raised in northern Alabama in a very rural town, as you just saw. And I am everything I said, basically. I am not a perfect human being. I have made so many mistakes. I'm basically the black sheep of my family, okay? Because I had 3 sisters, no brothers, and they were all good kids. I was the bad kid. I was the one that didn't finish high school and got pregnant at 16, and, um, I got married at 16 and at the pressure of our families, and wasn't married very long. When we got divorced, it took a great toll on me as far as depression and mental health, which I had always struggled with, or at least since I was 10. And so I got into drugs and alcohol, and that was some. And I ended up having a drug overdose when I was 19, and was in the hospital. And I prayed and I prayed, and God just saved me. I won't do it again. And I found out I was pregnant during that visit. So basically, my second child saved me. From then on, I didn't do them. I continued to drink for a while, but then I became a bartender when I was going into nursing school, and I saw what the alcohol did, and I quit drinking then. Um, but I have 3 sons. I have 7 granddaughters. Um, I started back to school when I was 30 because when I was 30, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, just out of the blue. Now, I had was in an accident when I was 22, and I had a C2 fracture. I broke my neck, and I don't know if it was the over radiation or could just be genetic, but I ended up with thyroid cancer. Luckily, we found it early, and I was able to get my thyroid removed and went through a couple of rounds of internal radiation. And from there, I decided I wanted to go back to school. So I always wanted to be a nurse because my aunt is a nurse, Virginia. It was something that I always wanted to. Um, okay, can you hear me now? Okay, can you hear me okay now, Lisa? Okay. So, Michelle, don't worry because this is recorded, so you can actually go back and watch it later. And it would be worth watching. My guest just left, but she had some awesome, awesome things to say. So, at any rate, back to, and again, I'm so ADHD, you'll just have to kind of track me, okay? Because I will get off topic in about a second. Even medicated now, I get off topic in a second. So, I started back to this community college. I had to start with remedial classes because I was just very uneducated. And so I didn't even score high enough on the entrance exams to be able to get into the regular classes. So I had to start with the remedial. So I finished that, did very well. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, I might not be as dumb as I thought I was. I felt like I had accomplished something. So it gave me a little bit of, So during all these radiation treatments and stuff, I decided to go on and I literally went into my English 101 class. This was in 2001. And I remember that distinctly because that was when 9/11 happened. And I remember being running into my classroom telling the instructor, the professor, about what had just happened because, of course, I was late. I was always late. Um, but nobody had heard it, and I had just heard it coming into the classroom. So we ended up like dismissing the whole class and going from there. But I ended up doing really well in that program. Graduated with my RN. Went to work, started working and traveling, and I'm a little bit of a gypsy. So I'm a little bit of I can't sit still in one place too very long. I like to travel. I like to go. I like to do. And so travel nursing was going to be perfect for me. So I ended up traveling to California and I ended up staying for like 8 years. My youngest son not finished school, but he went to school there in California. So it opened me up to this different environment. It opened me up to more cultures, diversity. It opened me up to be around people that I had never been around before. So it's like it opened my mind to things that, because looking back now, even though I had a grandmother that raised me, that everyone is the same. And I never ever had any type of issues with any other cultures or anything like that, but I had never been around them. When I moved to California, that is when I was open to all those things. I ended up working very, very hard, working 2 and 3 jobs at a time, continuing school. I ended up having 8 years of school. I got my master's in science and my nurse practitioner. That is when I moved back home to Alabama. So I will continue those stories later, maybe in another podcast to go a little deeper in those because I got some very salacious, gossipy, not gossipy, sorry, very salacious details of my life that I will eventually share. But how I got into wigs is, of course, I had moved back to California. I was working, I was by myself. It's me and my 3 dogs, which, if any of you know me, I love my dogs. I love my dogs. I have 3 dogs. I have a pit bull dog named Isabella. I have Jack, which is a Sharpei Lab mix, which is my baby. And I have Jill, which is a black lab. They're all like 8, 9, and 10 years old, but they are precious and I love them so much. They have been my rock, basically, being away by myself in California. Um, so I was there. I was terribly depressed. I had lost a lot of weight and I went into this thyroid storm or thyroid crisis. Sorry. Um, Nothing I had ever experienced before, but it made me extremely depressed. I couldn't drive. I couldn't work. I couldn't, things that I had always done. And so I ended up getting into the boutique and selling clothing first and accessories. Then I went into the human hair because I needed a wig because my hair was falling out. And so I ended up with human hair, but I didn't know anybody. Like, I knew nobody in the wig community. I hadn't been on TikTok in years. I had an account, but I think I had 150 followers. Um, I had nothing, like nobody I even knew wore wigs. So how was I going to sell a dang wig, right? But as with everything else in my life, I said, I'm not going to let this stop me. This is what I'm going to do. And I spent day and night and researching all these manufacturers. I do love research. I'm a big nerd, so that's fun for me. But I would research all these manufacturers and get all these things done and finally found the ones I needed. And in my boutique, I started selling the high quality synthetic wigs. Um, the thought of doing a live show was something I never in a million years thought I would do. Now, I'm not a shy person. I'm not an intimidated person, but I have my flaws, big flaws. I'm in my 50s, I'm wrinkled. I developed radio necrosis from the radiation treatments that I had back when I had cancer. And they told me it would probably happen decades later, and it did. So I'm losing a lot of bone and teeth. I've lost a great deal of my teeth now. And just in the last year, I was literally, no lie, folks, I was in a live show and one of my bottom teeth fell out of nowhere. Like, that is a humiliating thing for me But I don't let that stop me because everyone has flaws. Everyone has to deal with what you're given. And I try to take every single thing that I've ever been given, good or bad, and help someone else or turn it into something positive. That's what I've always done. As I told her, and she knows, and anybody that knows me or was raised with me can tell you, you never have to worry about what I'm thinking about. I'm brutally honest sometimes. Sometimes I need to keep my mouth shut. I'm trying to do better. But I am what you see. And that is just very important to know. I absolutely, I'm more of a, I really pay attention to what's going on in the world. Like, I love my wigs over here, and designing them has been heaven for me. Like, that is something that is like, I had no idea was in me. No idea. Yeah, Michelle. Um, I was not the artistic sister. All right. I was educated. I was the risk taker. I was the one that would always be there to handle things if I needed to. I was the outspoken one. But artistic? Absolutely not. So when I started creating these, and the more I get into it, and the more I was just amazed. I was so happy. Like the one I have on, these colors. Look at these colors, how amazing. This is my custom design, and I love it. Um, and then it just led to this store and this group of people that I fell in love with, most of them. Now, there's been lots of backstabbing. There's been lots of talking behind your back. Um, there's a lot of mean girls out there. Mean girls portraying themselves to be very nice. That's something you'll have to figure out on your own because I'm not going to bash anybody on this show. I'm just not. That's not who I am. I confront them. I tell them exactly what I think, and then I move on and I forget about them the next day. That is who I am. But what I want this show to bring is people like this, heroes. Miss Gypsy, she just had a publication. I'm so proud of her. She's going to be on here very soon as well. I'm going to have, if you have ideas, if you want to be a guest, if there's something that you want to share, we can do it virtually. I have no problem with that. But I want to make it to where this is a platform that we can uplift each other. I think that you cannot help the world unless you have all the information. And I think a lot of us are shielded from a lot of information. And because I love research so much, I'm very willing to look that credible information up and give that to you. So that's what I want this to be about. I will definitely show a wig every time I'm on here. Okay. I need to sell some wigs. But this is Savannah Dusty Rose. It's one I had last year that sold out, and I just brought her back for pre-order. Okay. So again, like this, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, share it. I have recorded this. So you'll be able to watch it later if you miss some of it, or if there's people that you think might be interested in listening about addiction and mental health. We will dive way deeper into my bio and who I am, and way deeper into mental health issues. And this is not just about women, this is about men too. And it is 18 and above, so there's very few things that we can't discuss. I'm open, and I don't get embarrassed very easily. And I'm a healthcare provider, so I'm used to talking about everything. So yes, if you have, yes. So again, I think that we are having a mental health crisis in the United States. I think there's not enough facilities to help us, and there's not enough providers that are familiar enough to treat us correctly. Definitely not enough mental health providers. And I hope that changes in the future. Um, that is something that I am a licensed provider, but I'm not necessarily a licensed like psych provider. But when you live in rural areas like we do, it is the primary care providers that treat those psych conditions. So even though I don't have that psych behind my name, I am very capable and very able to treat those patients. And it is under my scope of practice because we are educated on that. So anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching, supporting my Fuzzy Fables. Again, let's share it out. Let's get it bigger. I hope to have lots of different guests. If we don't have a guest that week, then I will do lots of research and present it. And this was a serious topic. This is something that I felt was so important that I really wanted it to be in the first show. However, there's going to be some weeks that it's going to be just flat out funny or fun or whatever because I love to laugh. Sarcasm is my second language, and I love people and interacting, and I think this is going to be first. Okay. I wondered, Margie, Alex, so y'all go under the same one. That's okay. It's okay. I'm watching. And you two have been such a great support, and I love you so much. And Gypsy, Michelle, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it more than you know. Share it out. I'm going to head out now and go feed my babies, and I will talk to you guys in 2 weeks, same time. And of course, I'll have many live shows, week shows in between. Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.